Hi guys, how are you all? This is FJ What If? Today we are going to discuss about what if Naruto was Madara's student part 10. Before start the episode, please like and subscribe my channel. Chapter 10, Waves, Wolves and Losing Memories. The sky was black with the coming of night and the moon was shining brightly over the dark crevices of the world. Its light like a woman's soft touch as it caressed every shadow. Clouds shrouded the sky as their dark forms obscured the heavenly candles in the sky known as stars, which always followed the moon like slaves. The wind howled through trees and leaves, creating melodious music akin to that of a lullaby. It had been a single day since Naruto's confrontation with Kasami Hoshigaki. The renowned swordsman of the mist had agreed to fight another fellow Akatsuki organization member, Ryuyoke's, or perhaps known by his real name, Naruto Uzumaki. During the fight, Naruto had held back. He liked fighting strong opponents that could get his blood pumping. He usually preferred quick and easy battles and kills without the necessity to waste chakra. But since the blonde had too much chakra, he had a natural urge to dump it all. The two had felt the rush of adrenaline course through their bodies. Their fight was truly enjoyable. Naruto had attuned his power to match that of Kaisam's, but like all things, someone becomes bored from it. When the moon rose over the horizon, signaling its reign over the world, the fight was rendered silent. Kasami was dominated by a beast known as Yoke's, who was affected by the power of the moon in its place. The Banana Basaka Henkin, Bestial Berserker transformation, or simply beast mode. And no matter how it sounded, Naruto did not transform into a werewolf, he only gained bestial attributes and a savage personality. The scales were tipped in Naruto's favor when the animal was set loose from its cage. Kasami was easily and quickly defeated by the Sharingan wielder. The Shark Man was lucky to even be alive if it wasn't for his loyal sword Samehada healing and keeping him alive. Ryu had left a scroll behind for Kasami, who had agreed to join Naruto and his plan to bring about an illusion that would end all evil. Kasami was previously in service to an Uchiha survivor by the name of Obito, who had manipulated the Yondai Mizukage into purging the Keki Genkai of the Kirigakure. Obito confronted Naruto and even went as far to ask him to join Obito's plan. But of course Naruto refused, since Obito's dreams did not coincide with Naruto's own, and he paraded around with a name Naruto held dear to him. So in 5 months, the two Sharingan wielders would have a death match in a valley south of the Fire Temple, which trained ninja monks. The valley was flat and perfect and large, since Naruto believed that the battle would be titanic like Hashirama and Madara's own battle. But Naruto himself was unaware of what he was going to do between that time and now. So now he was meditating on a tall rock, trying to achieve something extremely difficult: controlling the Banana Basaka Henkin, or beast mode. All of the features that identified the beast mode was easily distinguishable. His ears were pointed and his canines were bared and fang-like. His hair was now wild and manic where it broke through the bandages of his ponytail. The sclera in his eyes became black and his pupil slits, and an X-shaped scar-like pattern sprouted between his eyes and ended at his cheekbones and hairline. His eyes were now closed, and he was trying to concentrate by resisting the urge to attack anything that made a sound. Zetsu was hiding behind a tree. He really needed to talk to Naruto about a certain blue-haired partner of his and a Sharkman, also the fact about Sasori's help. He needed to know what Naruto was planning with the 5 great shinobi nations and how it could assist the Eye of the Moon plan. However, right now even the slightest action could provoke the blonde into attacking the plant man. Controlling one's emotions were easy. Controlling one's instincts were something else entirely. Right now Naruto couldn't control it but direct it. Well, only by a little if the state Kasami was left in gave us any doubt. And even then directing it required immense mental fortitude and will. Zetsu decided to play it safe and approached Naruto slowly. If he was careful he would be walking away with just a missing arm. You can't predict an aggressive animal's behavior. It's like trying to go east and west at the same time. It's impossible, so therefore it was impossible to know what Naruto would do to the plant man. He walked away from the tree he was hiding behind and planned each step he took toward the blonde. He saw the man sitting in a lotus position on a tall rock in a small clearing. The blonde couldn't use shadow clones to further improve his control over the beast mode, since the more clones he created, the more distracting it became for them to focus on controlling their instincts. The white half appeared to be sweating from the anxiety of its action right now. While the black half had bated breath, it too was afraid of facing the maw of the beast. For what felt like agonizing hours, the plant man stood before the meditating Naruto, who was too engrossed in his current manifestation. Zetsu had made sure he was quiet so to not provoke the animal before him. And Naruto, whispered the white half, and instantly Naruto's eyes opened, and his stare pierced through Zetsu like a sword. But instead of Sharingan, Zetsu was treated to orange amber eyes with slits peering into him. Zetsu was unsure if that was Naruto's real eye color before the transplant or the effects of the beast mode. Zetsu could feel an aura of death around him at the moment. It felt palpable and suffocating. It wasn't killing intent, it was literally Naruto's personal aura. Any other man would probably die of fear. We need to talk about OR-, but Zetsu was cut off as he heard a low emanating growl from Naruto. I mean your P-plan. We must discuss what our next move is, and he too was cut off as a snarl came from the blonde as he activated his Sharingan. Things weren't going according to Zetsu's plan. However, the moon would be setting in a few minutes and Naruto would be forced out of beast mode. Well, I believe that we should inform Conan of your plans and what you're up to. The chosen heir of Madara got up from his mediation position and clenched his right hand in a fist ready to attack the plant man. Zetsu buckled a little from the movement and prepared to escape the coming onslaught. And Naruto, we can talk about this. Right? Quivered white Zetsu, quickly regaining himself and trying to eject the presence of the beast from his body. There was one thing Naruto could control with the transformation, is when he could cancel the transformation and return to normal. However, there was a major side effect in using the mode. It left the user extremely exhausted from the stress the mode had on the body and mind. The blonde panted heavily. Another day and yet little to no progress was made with the beast mode, even considering all the control he had in directing it. Zetsu sighed in relief over the fact that Naruto wasn't going to kill him at the moment. What is it, Zetsu? Coughed Naruto as he jumped down from the tall rock and held his face in the palms of his hand, trying to steady himself. It almost felt like waking up in the morning. We forgot to inform Conan about your extended absence, spoke Zetsu. Naruto didn't care. He would meet up with Conan later, besides he wanted to talk to her about a few things. He also wanted to know if the Mizukage wanted something from him. He got the strange feeling that she really wanted something from him. He just couldn't place his finger on what she wanted. Naruto unsealed his Akatsuki from his left wrist seal and flung it over his body over his own black cloak. Go and await Nagato's orders or my own. I need to head back to the mountain's graveyard to retrieve some things, and then I will depart for the land of water, said Naruto, and with those words his body dispersed into a cloud of bats where the flying mammals headed to Naruto's main base. Damn, even now he's still impatient. And we were supposed to talk about what our future plans were, mumbled Zetsu as he watched Naruto's bat cloud fly in the sky. Tsunade Senju was sitting at her desk attending to her duties as the Hokage. How she wanted to go gambling or drinking at the moment just to escape her advisors and avoid Shizune. The message she received the day before was strange. Something about a nobody? Everything was strange at the moment, and tensions in the village were rising, and fear was spreading amongst the villagers and shinobi alike. They were at the moment readying themselves for the next attack or infiltration. She was able to keep Shino's death and the Dancing Phantoms incidents under control, however she couldn't hide Shino's death for long since the other ninja would grow suspicious. Maybe she should consult with Drea on what she must do. She'd rather get advice from him rather than Homura, Kaharu and Danzo. But when she thought about it, everything that had happened started when yokais popped into existence. She knew that there was something happening that she couldn't see, that the truth was hidden behind a veil of lies. She started linking everything that has happened to the yokais incident. And it all made sense, and yet it didn't. Somehow yokais is behind everything, and yet he had no involvement in anything. It was like falling dominoes and pieces on a chessboard, everything was falling into place. She had to discover what it led to. She heard a knock coming from behind her, where she turned in her chair to see a crow with a scroll tied to its back. It was currently pecking at her window, trying to achieve her attention. She opened the window where the crow perched on her desk. She untied the scroll from the crow where it flew through the same window and off to somewhere. She unraveled his scroll, and of course, there was a message imprinted on the paper. The salamander's fire is most potent when its pale angel instills its will in turbulent injunction, forever chasing the light of a greater being. Eternally beware of the salamander's maw, as it has power over nothing and seeks power above everything. What the fuck? A salamander? Pale angel? Thought Swan as she was befuddled by the message. Trying to figure it out was like trying find your way out of a maze. Anbu! Shouted Swan as two Anbu units appeared from nowhere, kneeling on front of her desk. Get me Shikamaru Nara, I'm perfectly aware that he was suspended from active shinobi duty, but this requires his attention and expertise. The Anbu nodded at their cage and left to retrieve the Nara heir. Tsunade rubbed her temples in annoyance. Everything was spiraling towards something. And she could feel that many will be held responsible. Kyazum Hoshigaki was very sore. After his defeat at the hands of Ryu, the blonde had left a scroll behind detailing what Kasami must do next. Right now the shark moon was lying on his bed at a small inn he and Itachi were booked to stay in. Every part of the former Kirin hurt. Whenever he moved, something in his figure would hurt. It was a miracle Kasami was even able to get back to the inn. It wasn't for Samehada's assurance and support. The dragon's orders were that Kasami remain Obito's agent until the Ukka's death in 5 months. So right now Kasami was a double agent, working for Ryu and Obito. At that moment Itachi walked in on Kasami writhing in pain. "What happened?" asked Kasami with a small smirk, amused at the sight of Kasami in shambles. "I fell down a staircase," deadpanned Kasami, who moaned in agony. Even speaking was difficult at the time. "Sure you did," stated Itachi. "Leader Sama has given us a new mission," stated Itachi. Kasami moaned again, but this time in annoyance. He didn't feel like going on a mission. "But the state you're in means we won't be going anywhere for a while. It's best if you recuperate from falling down the stairs." Kasami grunted, and now he had to put up with Itachi's eyes watching him while he was napping. Could his day get any worse? In a forest, clouds of bats were migrating towards an ancient graveyard where a powerful person had made it their base of operations. The bats broke through the tree line and beelined straight for a certain skeletal rib cage 3 times the size of a man. The bats bombarded each other in a kamikaze way, and a shape could be seen amongst the furry bodies. The last 2 bats bombed each, and black mist ensued, and a dark figure walked out of the mist, gracefully walking towards a certain room. The inside of the base was filled with stone-hewn corridors and bland sights. Few braziers out the corridors, and one who did not know their way around would get easily lost. Naruto walked through the halls of his personal base. It had all the essentials one could ask for from life. Food, rest, library, medical facility, armory. It had it all. But right now Naruto was heading to a certain room in the command center. A small room where very useful and items of great financial and emotional value were stored. Naruto found the room and opened the door, showcasing a room filled with boxes and shelves with boxes on them. 2 shelves were directly to his left and right. The left shelf had Madara's mementos, while the right had Naruto's. Zetsu had sorted through Madara's and Naruto's belongings and differentiated between the 2. It wasn't that hard since the 2 men had very little, so the boxes in the room were just there waiting to be filled with items. Naruto walked over to his shelf where 2 small wooden boxes were sitting atop the shelf. He picked up one box and opened it, revealing his Akatsuki ring with a kanji for sky, or void written on it. He slipped the ring onto his right index finger. He couldn't remember when he parted with the ring, but since he was going back into his Akatsuki duties, he was required to wear it. He turned his gaze on the other box and opened it, where a necklace was sitting inside. The necklace had a green gem tied to it with 2 accessories on the band. This gem had great emotional value to Naruto's mask before he died. He could remember that Hashirama Senju's chakra was stored into it and was worth mountains worth of money, according to the information he had heard about it. He hung the necklace in its rightful place, around his neck, and left the room. He exited the mountain's graveyard, and left, but not before storing some money and gems he had taken from the Omeda family, since they were so gracious in leaving it lying around in their manor. Who knows, maybe Naruto would use the money he had taken for something important. He also kept a handsome amount of money on him, just for safekeeping. Just when Naruto was about to leave, Zetsu sprouted from the ground in front of the blonde. "Konan has informed me that the Mizukage has 2 missions for the both of you," spoke Zetsu. Naruto stared at Zetsu blankly. Of course, he would have more missions from the auburn-headed cage. He had a growing feeling that she was trying to seduce him for some reason. Although he assumed that she wanted the Sharingan by allowing herself to be impregnated by him. He wasn't sure if he could pass on the Sharingan to any children he may have in the future, if fate was that kind to him. He wasn't an Uchiha. He was given the Sharingan artificially, through Madara's blood transfusion, but because of his Uzumaki lineage, who were blood relatives of the Senju, it allowed his body to accept the Sharingan without any drawbacks. But Naruto brushed that off as his superstition getting to him. He didn't allow people to get close to him. He wasn't amused with the prospects of friends, but he also had trust issues stemming from the beatings he received from the villagers under the influence of his mask. Also, he didn't want anyone to get close to him, as he believed that allowing oneself to become emotionally tangled with a person would eventually lead to weakness and betrayal. He learned that the hard way. But beneath that, he was unnerved at the thought of being hurt by another on a different level than physical. He could handle physical, he could recover from most wounds and injuries dealt to him. But mentally and emotionally he couldn't handle it. The psychological abuse he was handed by the villagers was torment, but it was even worse when the person he thought as family, the Sandaime Hokage, kept the reason why everyone hated him a secret, which only hurt more as he did know the reason when it was easier to tell him in a few short words. Instead, he had to endure the suffering of ignorance as the villagers wounded him with words, and yet he didn't know the cause of it. Deciding to cut off his thoughts for now and not dwell on the past. But even if the villagers only damaged the mask, the face would still be hurt, as Naruto's mask and his true self were one and the same being. Hurt one, hurt the other. Wasn't that hard to figure out? Off with you, Zetsu, and go do something that doesn't involve my time, ordered Naruto, and because of his words, White Zetsu was sulking while Black Zetsu didn't care. Could his day get any worse? Shikamaru Nara was both happy and annoyed. Happy that he was suspended from active shinobi duty, that way he could go back to cloud watching and having naps and just overall being lazy. When his mother found out about his suspension, she almost popped an artery, and Shikamaru and his father almost went deaf from her shouting. She'd even gone to a new level when she whacked Shikamaru over the head with a frying pan. The Nara heir didn't know why his father would marry such a tyrannical woman. She was the most troublesome person in the world in Shikamaru's opinion. He was just enjoying his day, being lazy, sleeping in bed, and when he woke up, an Anbu member was just standing at the foot of his bed watching him through the deep black holes in their masks. It was almost like a statue was erected in Shikamaru's room, and their eyes followed you everywhere. So instead of freaking out and shouting, Shikamaru went back to sleep with the Anbu still watching him. It wasn't until midday did Shikamaru get back out of bed. The Anbu had told him that he was summoned by the Hokage. Now the Nara scratched his head at that. Wasn't he suspended from shinobi duty? So now we found ourselves with Shikamaru and Swan in her office with the Nara reading over the message Tsunade had received from the crow. Shikamaru was dumbfounded. A salamander. Not to sound rude, but what is this? Spoke Shikamaru. Tsunade sighed at the intellectual shinobi. She too felt the same way when she received the message. I can empathize with what you're feeling right now. And that note isn't the first to grace me, spoke Tsunade as she rested her head in her hands. Unfortunately, I tore apart the other one, believing it to be nothing but a joke. I need you to head over to the cryptanalysis department and to see if they can decrypt that message. Tell them it is a top priority. I know that he sounds like overkill, but I believe that this message has something to do with the Akatsuki, spoke Tsunade with authority. Shikamaru sighed. More work, great. Just when I thought I was free to watch the clouds, our troublesome Hokage gave me more work. Troublesome, thought irked Naruto. Shikamaru was wailing through Konoha on his way to the cryptanalysis division. While doing that, he was reading the message the Hokage had received. The salamander's fire is most potent when its pale angel instills its will in turbulent injunction, forever chasing the light of a greater being. Eternally beware of the salamander's maw, as it has power over nothing and seeks power above everything. Read over Shikamaru. He couldn't make heads or tails of this paragraph, even with his intelligence. It must have taken someone with incredible intelligence to come up with something like this. He found the library-like structure of the cryptanalysis building. Tsunade had told him that they were expecting him. Shikamaru walked through the doors of the building and headed to a specific room where he would be assisted by the decryption team. He opened the doors to see two individuals waiting for him. There was a bespectacled man with dark eyes and black hair tied in a short ponytail, and a small goatee. He wore a white coat over an orange shirt with dark pants. While the other was a girl with fair skin, and like her male counterpart, she too wore glasses, but hers was tinted and obscured her eye color. She had light blonde hair with several strands sticking out and a low ponytail. Her attire was a white lab coat over a simple red dress. Hokage-sama informed me that you would handle the investigation into the mysterious note she received this morning, said the male worker. It didn't take Shikamaru long to figure out that this man was head of the cryptanalysis division. Yeah, she ordered me here to decipher the message. She also told me to relay any information you discover to me also, spoke Shikamaru. He handed the message to the man and sat in a chair off to the corner of the room where he would wait for their successful decryption. A few hours passed by while the cryptographers were working on the message. Shikamaru in that time was napping on the chair in the corner room. Shikamaru opened his eyes to see one of the cryptographers, Sho, looking at him. "Have you found anything legible in message?" asked Shikamaru as he got off his seat. "Unfortunately, the message doesn't match with any of our codes and algorithms. Whoever wrote this must have been in a hurry, or they put a lot of thought and effort into it so no one else could decrypt it," spoke Sho, which made Shikamaru sigh. "If we had the key, we might have been able to decipher the message." "A key?" muttered Shikamaru, confused at what the blonde girl was referring to. "Well, a key is a string of rules that govern the code and algorithms. If we don't have the key, it would be near impossible to decrypt it. However, this message doesn't seem to have a key, therefore it's just gibberish." "Well, too bad, then this whole thing was just a waste of time. I could have watched the clouds go by in the amount of time I spent here," whined Shikamaru, who sighed. "Well, thanks for the help. I'll go report to Tsunade-sama," said Shikamaru as he was almost at the door ready to leave. "You know, when I first read the message, the salamander almost had me believing that it was connected to Hanzo of the salamander," murmured Sho. Shikamaru stopped in his stride and turned to face Sho with a look that screamed that he figured something out. "Say that again," ordered Shikamaru in disbelief. "What, that the salamander in the message was somehow connected to Hanzo?" repeated Sho. "Right now I feel like kissing you," said Shikamaru, which was really out of character for him, and the sentence caused Sho to blush profusely. And she stuttered gibberish that no one was able to understand. "However, I just figured out how we can crack this code." All three people in the room gathered around the piece of paper, sitting idly on a small table. "I believe that every noun in this message is related to something different but yet similar," spoke Shikamaru. "Sho, when you said that the salamander, the first you thought of was Hanzo, right?" "Correct," stated Sho simply. "Well, when we read about the salamander, we instantly thought of the leader of Amigakure because it was similar and different. The message isn't about Hanzo, but rather it's referring to something else that is related to a salamander in a way," continued Shikamaru, amazing the two cryptographers at the quick and well-thought-out assumption. "Sho, can you tell me any lore regarding salamanders?" asked Shikamaru. "Oh, sure. Salamanders were believed to be born of fire and could sleep and live in flames. There have also been rumors that it can also breathe fire, and because of that a salamander is closely linked to that of dragons, another creature that has been symbolized with fire," recounted Sho of what she knew of the amphibian. "That's what I wanted to hear. So the salamander is in actuality a dragon." Shikamaru picked up a pencil and twirled it around with his fingers before crossing out the word salamander and replacing it with dragon. "So it seems that all the nouns actually do refer to something else. The next noun is fire, so it's referring to something else. Well, fire has many meanings and can interpret it in different ways. Unlike the salamander, which is now a dragon, only had one meaning. We have to find the correct meaning to the word." Sho walked away from the table and pulled out a book from one of the shelves surrounding the room. "Fire, fire, oh here we go, fire and its symbolism. It says here that fire symbolizes energy, passion, action, creativity, authority and power, and among other things, especially sexuality," flirted Sho, but no one was listening to her. "I think the word fire is actually referring to the word power," spoke the head cryptographer. "It seems likely, though we have to keep an open mind, it could still refer to anything," said Shikamaru as he crossed out the fire for power. "Not only that, but the message makes more sense now. Let's move on to the next word, angel." Now everyone in the room was dumbstruck. What could angel possibly refer to? It obviously is referring to some sort of deity. A pale angel. Angels are usually described as messengers, following the order of a greater divine being, spoke Sho. "Chasing the light of a greater being." Sho took out another book, but this time on gods and deities, to see if any matched the purpose of the pale angel. "If we use the information we currently, I believe we can uncover what the pale angel is," spoke Sho as she tossed page after page. "Let's see, gods of beauty and fertility, longevity." "No, don't look at gods, but things related to gods," ordered Shikamaru. "Okay. Well, there's ocean, mountains, the sky, certain individuals, sun, moon minus," but she stopped her sentence when she saw Shikamaru crossing out angel for moon, and it wasn't hard to figure out that the greater being was the sun. Apparently he had figured out the angel part. Sho was about to voice something before Shikamaru interrupted her. Read about the moon, stated Shikamaru simply. Well, the moon has been known in legend to cause lunacy, insanity and savage, animalistic personalities. Because of that, many people in various religions have hailed the moon as a god or goddess. Though whether this is true or not has yet to be proven, but the common belief that the moon influences a person's mood and behavior stemmed from the idea that the moon made one simply crazy. Spoke Sho as she recited what was known on the moon and adding in some of her own dialogue. Shikamaru nodded his head at her, proving himself that he was right. The only noun left is ma. But I don't think it's referring to another noun like the others. Spoke Sho. Can you explain? Asked Shikamaru, who was at a loss for words or was too lazy to form words. Well, if I was the one writing this message, I would refer to the ma as a certain motive rather than another noun. But yet it also could refer to the dragon's fire, as like I said earlier, fire can also mean a number of things, not just the force of nature. There was one meaning that related to the word ma. Consumption. As fire is known to consume everything it touches, so this must mean that the ma is linked to fire. Explained Sho. Maybe the ma is the motive to seek and consume power, it's the most likeliest case, said the head cryptographer. You may be right. Listen, you guys, hold on to the note. I'll go and inform Tsunade-sama about its message despite how troublesome it was. Spoke Shikamaru as he dug his hands into his pockets and left the room. And if I need anything, I'll be right back, said Shikamaru over his shoulder, which made Sho blush because she had just developed a crush on the Nara heir. I see. Spoke Tsunade, who had just finished soaking in what the note said. Was that all the information you could get from the message? Yeah, it took the cryptographers hours, but they couldn't get anything from it. But you know how it is, the simplest things just happen to be the most troublesome to figure out. Spoke Shikamaru. The message obviously hints at a warning to be wary of a certain individual, said Tsunade, to which Shikamaru nodded. I don't think it's that hard to figure out who the warning refers to. Deadpan Shikamaru. I put that entry in the bingo book for him. Tsunade bit her nail in frustration, just thinking about that person gave her a headache. But still, he's been causing a lot of trouble ever since he popped out of nowhere. The message also hinted at his motives, but it didn't reveal much, and we don't have a lot of information to put together what we believe he's up to. Continued Shikamaru. Drea told me that he joined the Akatsuki, informed Swan, which made Shikamaru raise his eyebrows. If so, then trying to find him right now will be impossible, unless somehow we run into him, and whoever his partner is by accident. If that is everything, I'll be on my way. I'm still on suspension, remember? Stated Shikamaru as he left the room. Tsunade just kept running over things in her mind on everything. Perhaps this was karma, payback for not keeping a promise to someone very close to her. She knew she failed that special person. And if so, how could she face that person again when it would be her time to go? The Hokage sighed. She could feel the burden of her greatest failure hanging over her like a shroud. She could only hope that her sins would be forgiven. In Kirigakure, a man wearing a black cloak with red clouds over that black cloak was wading through Kirigakure like water. His hood was up, which obscured most of his face. He was searching for his beautiful, blue-haired partner. However, seeing as he was now in a shinobi village, he would just have to sense her chakra somewhere and bam, he's found her. But right now he was passing through the streets of the Hidden Mist village, watching all the civilians go about their days and lives, without a care in the world. As he was walking by the buildings, however, something in the corner of his eye caught his attention. It was off to the distance, but he could still see it. It was a small park reserved mainly for children. Its play area was host to monkey bars, swings and seesaws. The blonde Sharingan wielder watched all the children playing with their friends and other games. He saw their smiles, and to some it would be the most purest thing in the world. Naruto remembered his own time as a small child. Parents would tell their children to stay away from him because of the fear of the Kyuubi and the lack of faith in their leader. Growing up for him was beyond difficult. No one wanted to be his friend or even want to talk to him, let alone look at him. He could remember all the loneliness he felt during most of those days when the other children were out playing. He could remember sitting on a swing set watching those other children with envy. How he wanted to be among them. That time was great. But what was even worse was that the parents and teachers encouraged their children to bully him and belittle him. Of course, since they were children and the Sandaim's law was in effect, they were ignorant over the fact that he was the village's greatest mistake. The Jinchuriki. Eager for their parents' approval, the students of the academy would bully him with emotional and physical violence, which earned their parents' praise. He could remember it all. Even when he helped other children by warding off bullies. The parents would just spit on his selflessness and virtue as if believing that he didn't have any of those qualities, no, as if he was incapable of such qualities. He questioned himself at the time. What was he striving for? Power, respect, fear, joy? None of those. But acceptance to make the world know that he wasn't a nobody, that he was a person, like anyone else, with emotions and feelings, rife with dreams and goals. He wanted to love the people as they would love him. He wanted to share his love with someone worthy of it, and possibly bringing the world new and pure life that he created with another who he would love. But that would not be so, and he could not foresee that in the future. The children on the playset with their parents watching over them with affection and protectiveness. However, his time as a child was not what was enticing him from the view of the children, but something he missed out on. Although he was in his teens mentally, he was an adult. He had seen and done things that he doubted his former friends of Konoha had visioned. How he wanted to be one of those parents sitting by watching their children. He wanted to be a father. He wanted to sire life and love that life above all else. He wanted to feel loved. A child worships their parents, idolizes them. But above all, he wanted to shower his child with everything he never had, but yet, he didn't want to spoil that child either. Now, however, he doubted the chances of conceiving life with another. And if such a thing were to happen, he would want the other parent of his child to be above, worthy of his love. Anyone else didn't matter to him. He turned his gaze away from the children and parents and trekked through the village with a visage that betrayed no emotion. Though on the inside he was in pain, he was always in pain. Conan was sitting on a chair in her hotel room looking out through a window. She could see the cylindrical towers of the village and the mist hat blanketed it. It was better than the rain in a Megacure. She had yet to hear anything from Ryu in a while. He was supposed to be back the day before, but there was yet no sign of him. The Mizukage asked to where he was. But Conan lied and told her that he was exploring the land of water, to which the voluptuous Cage accepted. Conan was anxious, she didn't know why. But she was hoping for Ryu to return. Ever since she became his partner, she had been adjusting to life, always moving around and going to different places and the missions she and Ryu went on. Although she didn't like taking the life of another, she knew that it was required in the line of shinobi duty. Although she would never admit it, but it was kind of fun running side by side with Ryu. It reminded her of her time with Yahiko. How she would give up anything to relive those memories. She heard her door opening and readied her charca paper in case it was an attacker. She became even more alert after the incident when Ryu was kidnapped. But it was the person she wanted to see most as the man pulled down his hood, revealing his golden locks. Conan. Deadpanned Naruto, and Conan relaxed herself around him. Have you been busy? No, the missions the Mizukage assigns me have been relatively simple, answered Conan. Good, stated Naruto as he entered his room with Conan following after him. She's been curious about your recent whereabouts. I too have been curious, spoke Conan. Ryu didn't respond to her. I was to have Zetsu contact you and say that I would be delayed in my re-arrival to Kirigakure. But the fool forgot to tell you, so here I am now, said Ryu sitting on his bed. I see, stated Conan. Also, I wanted to talk to you about something, two things apparently, spoke Naruto, gaining Conan's attention. How would you react if I told you that I can make you stronger? Muttered Naruto. Conan raised her eyebrow at this. But just how would he make her stronger? Depends on what you have in mind, whispered Conan with a hint of curiosity and wariness. There was a clan of shinobi that I faced few times during the era of the Warring States. This clan rivaled the Senju because of their amazingly strong bodies and chakra, spoke Naruto, slipping into his guise of Madara. This clan of shinobi was the Uzumaki clan. They were distant blood relatives of the Senju. They had amazingly powerful life force and strong, resilient chakra, and because of their life force, the Uzumaki could live twice as long as the average human. In fact, many Uzumaki during the Warring States had a far longer life expectancy than any other shinobi, coupled with their prominent healing factor where they could survive fatal wounds and keep on fighting for 3 days. I've heard of the Uzumaki clan, but I did not know much about them, confessed Conan. But what does this clan have to do with making me stronger? I wish to give the clan's powers and abilities to you by either infusing your cells with Uzumaki cells or transfusing blood, replied the blonde. Conan was unsure of herself. For one, she did want to help Ryu with his plan, and getting stronger would help, but the way he would do it would be closely akin to that of human experimentation. What benefits would I receive? Questioned Conan. First of all, your chakra will skyrocket, becoming larger and stronger. 2. Your life force and healing factor will increase dramatically, although your regenerative powers would not be on par with my own, but it can still rival it, where you can recover from the wounds in hours and broken bones in days. And don't worry about this affecting any of your possibly future children, they won't inherit the same powers you would have. Explained Naruto, and to Conan she was tempted to take it. Conan sighed heavily, having already chosen her answer. I will allow myself to be experimented on, murmured Conan, although she was still skeptical of such a procedure. You misunderstand, said Ryu. Conan looked up at him. I'm not experimenting on you, it's just a simple medical procedure, nothing more. It will be painless and quick. I don't wish to harm you. With a steely look of utter surety. The blue-haired woman was taken back by that. Considering who she was talking to, she suspected that he wanted to experiment on her. But he just wanted her to undergo a medical procedure that could be performed in a hospital, and saying he didn't want to hurt in fact didn't help with the small smile etching itself across her face. Maybe she was wrong about Ryuyoke's, maybe he had a human side after all. I also need you to hold on to something for me, stated Naruto. And that would be? Questioned Conan as she narrowed her eyes. I will tell you later, right now it's not important, replied Naruto, whose eyes were becoming heavy from fatigue from using the beast mode. We should get some rest, night will be approaching soon. We will attend to the missions the Mizukage has for us tomorrow, and then we will perform the procedure for your Uzumaki abilities and add on to the items I need you to hold on to, stated Naruto, and Conan nodded. The missions tomorrow will be the last the Mizukage has for us, then we will be ordered to leave the land of water and to other lands to perform contracts they're willing to play, whispered Conan as she discarded her Akatsuki cloak and went to her own room in the hotel. Naruto too removed his Akatsuki cloak and his black cloak underneath. He brushed his hand through his wild hair, thinking about if he should get his own unique hairstyle to spite the man that brought about so much agony to him. He hated looking like that man. It felt like whenever he looked in a mirror, he would see the Yondaim's face in his own, and he hated that man so much. Naruto wondered how the Yondaime would react to know that his spawn, his own scion, his child, was apprenticed to Konoha's first and greatest traitor. Thinking nothing of it, Naruto pulled the covers of his bed, blanketing his body, and closed his eyes as he succumbed to dreamless sleep. In Iwagakure, among the tall mountains and spires of rock and stone, the Tsuchikage was in his office assigning a very special shinobi a mission, one who was loyal to him throughout his career as Tsuchikage. The man before him was a veteran of the Third Shinobi World War and battled the Yondaime Hokage, who was at that time a jonin and survived, barely. One who was born with natural talent, even before her joined Iwa's academy. You know what your mission is, stated Onoki. I cannot assign Kitsuchi to this as he is far too important, given the fact that he's the jonin commander. You are perfect for this, as not many can see you coming, and if they do they won't be getting back up. Yeah. All I know is the fact I'm killing someone, spoke the person with a stereotypical server accent. Apparently he had better things to do than listen to an old man. But just because he was loyal didn't mean he wasn't disrespectful. Your target is Ryuyoke's, who has presented himself as a major threat to this village. You are to eliminate him and take his Sharingan from his corpse, continued Onoki. Yoke's, huh? Say, didn't he kill a bunch of our guys some time ago, spoke the person. Meanwhile, Onoki's eyes were wide with disbelief and his jaw dropped to the floor. How do you know about? Wait. Have you been eavesdropping again? Shouted Onoki. The person lifted his arms up with a sort of defensive manner. Sorry, old coot, but you know I just can't help it. I love listening in on the dirt people say around the village, as if I can't stop eavesdropping. It's my instincts, you know, continued the person. But how do you know about our missing shinobi? Questioned Onoki, who was practicing anger management exercises. Who knows, as if you're going to find out how, spoke the person. Onoki meanwhile was fuming in his chair. God, this person got on his nerves. You might want to cool down, old coot. Say, shouldn't you be complaining about your hip and back pains right about now? Queried the person. What back? My back, yelled Onoki as all the anger was taken out on his back, while the other person in the room was chuckling at the scene. Stop chuckling, you idiot. You're the village's strongest shinobi, only Kitsuchi can rival you. Kitsuchi and you can defeat me, as if you're too old and Kitsuchi is a stickler for the rules, continued the person. Stop messing around, Sajiki. Ordered/shouted Onoki. Relax, relax, you shouldn't give me such an angry look, it really brings out your age. Commented the revealed Sajiki, who walked up to his cage's desk. Sajiki was now revealed to the world. Sajiki had slicked back, black hair with several gray streaks, which was tied into a long ponytail reaching mid-back. He had golden eyes and upturned eyebrows. He had eye patch over his right eye and a long jagged scar extending from his left cheek to just under his left eye. He wore the Awagakure flak jacket with a tattered, red scarf with its tail sprouting behind his neck. He wore a long, low-collared, sleeveless purple coat with twin tails. He wore mesh armor all the way along his arms and had 2 black gloves with the thumb and index fingers missing. He sported brown pants and simple ninja sandals. He liked to call himself masculine and handsome, but that has yet to be proven. Maybe you should retire, and let me wear that funny hat of yours. Spoke Sajiki and sported a cocky smirk. I still have life in these bones of mine. But still kill Ryu yokais, and if you can retrieve the Sharingan, do so. Although yokais may give you some trouble. Spoke Onoki. As if yokais is as good as dead. I never miss my mark. Spoke Sajiki as he left the office. I'm gonna pick up my 2 beauties, then yokais will not be able to blink before he's dead. Said Sajiki as he left the room. I hope so, but I wonder if Sajiki Beru won't die at Yokazu's hand. Said Onoki. Back to the guy we're rooting for even though he's doing morally objectionable actions. Naruto could feel the rising sensation of waking. The blinds that obscured the undying light of the sun shrouded most of the room in darkness, but a few stray beams were etching its way through the blinds and into Naruto's eyes. The blonde moaned in discomfort, but strangely didn't make any facial features. He tried to move his body, so it escaped the light. But when he tried, his body didn't respond. He tried again but was met with the same result. Naruto's Sharingan eye snapped open and he surveyed where he was. The room was dark, and he couldn't see much. Sometimes he wished he had the Byakugan. Naruto seemed to have been captured again, and he had to applaud the person kidnapping him while he was asleep was genius, as his seal on the back of his neck would only act up if he was feeling sensations he wasn't supposed to feel, and sleep was one of the exceptions. He searched around the area looking for the object hampering his movement. And there they were, constricting his hands and feet to a bed, with its covers hiding his sacred nether region. Cuffs, but there was something wrong with these cuffs. They had pink fur on them. Thought Naruto. Instead of trying to break free, Naruto was waiting for his captors. If it was Danzo again, he would kill the old badger. The blonde was trying to hypothesize on what his captors would do to him. Torture him most likely. Beat information out of him, scar his body, or merely just for the fun of it. The Sharingan wielder didn't mind. No torture in the world would work on him, even psychological torture, for he was already broken, like a toy. But whoever kidnapped him was well trained. He was a heavy sleeper anyway. He was able to make out a door in front of him, but barely, thanks to the dimly lit room. He sighed his discontent. This must have been a practical joke on his part. Some Kiri shinobi attempting to humiliate him. He didn't care, they won't care. He heard the clicking of the door in front of him. He didn't feel any anxiety, or fear, nor nervousness, he didn't care. But the person that walked through was not someone who he would expect any time soon. Mei Terumi, the Gode Mizukichi, walking through the door with sexy lingerie. Why hello there, Ryu-kun. Spoke Mei as she bit her lip sexually. Naruto in turn bit his own lip, but for an entirely different reason. He bit his lip to dispel whatever genjutsu he was under effect, even drawing blood. But there was nothing wrong. He was not in any genjutsu. Many men in the world would love to be in his position. I've wanted you for some time, Ryu-kun, said Mei huskily. She started strutting towards the incapacitated blonde and adding some sway into her hips for his own amusement. Mizukichi-sama, could you please explain to me why I'm handcuffed to a bed? And why I'm naked underneath? Questioned the blonde. Mei pressed her finger against his lips, silencing him. Please, Ryu-kun, call me Mei-chan. And will you kept ignoring or not understanding my playful attempts to have my way with you? So I decided to take matters into my own hands for the next few hours, depends on how long it takes to please me. You're mine and mine only, whispered Mei in Naruto's ear. And she soon started nibbling on his earlobe, eliciting a moan from said blonde. Lemon warning, you can skip it if you want and don't hate me if it's bad. Mei smiled while nibbling on his lobe. Truth be told, she always wanted Ryu. She wanted to caress his body and rake her nails against his strong abs. Dig them into his back from the overload of ecstasy that came when two people became one. Secretly, May was jealous of Conan always having this perfectly carved specimen of the opposite sex. She wondered if Ryu and Conan were romantically involved or not. But it didn't matter as she found blonde hair a real turn-on. Moving from his ear to some just as soft but tastier, May aimed for Naruto's lips. She could feel his warm breath against her face, and his red eyes piercing her own. She wondered what his eye color was behind the red. But it didn't really matter at the time. She pressed her pink lips against his softly, almost chaste with a hint of lust. The kiss was gentle and soft, and it seemed to her that he wasn't holding back or ignoring her attempts. But May wanted more, her primal instincts were hitting her full force, she needed more like an animal. She dove her tongue into his mouth, exploring every crevice while her body wiggled around on top of the man so she could straddle him. When it was time for the main course, May noted that his mouth tasted like pork, delicious. She soon met resistance in the form of a fleshy appendage wrestling with hers. She smirked in delight when Ryu started battling her in their tongue war. Her chest was pressed against his tightly, and Naruto could feel her perky ample bosom on his torso. May snaked her arms around the blonde head and started to untie the taut ponytail from its restraints. She could feel her own arousal rising with each passing second. She combed her fingers through the now loose hair, and it was soft and silken to the touch, not what she would expect from someone with spiky hair. She broke of the kiss and instead started kissing roughly on the soft flesh of his neck, making him moan in delight. She kissed a certain place on his neck just under his chin, vigorously where she was certain it would leave a hickey. She heard the clattering of the restraints and was pleased to see him twitch in pleasure. She smirked in victory. She then trailed kisses across his torso down to his abdomen. But she stopped and straightened herself and her body. Feeling as if she had too much on, May began removing the black lingerie from her form. She scooted off our blonde anti-hero and started stripping her lingerie, slowly for the amusement of the restrained Sharingan wielder. She also noticed an extended length under the cover of the bed covers. The devious redhead would tease the blonde for a little longer. She grinned, this waiting must have been killing her prisoner. She slid off her bra, allowing her easily D-cup breasts to pop out where they jiggled a little, which caused Naruto's length to twitch a little. Naruto himself was trying to keep his composure. He could easily control his emotions, but primal instincts were different, and right now his instincts were screaming at him to fuck the beauty like a mad wolf. The Mizukage's hands traveled down to her panties, where she turned around her back facing Naruto. And she started revealing her plump exterior. She was so wet that it caused her panties to become soaked to the core. She just wanted him to take her right now. But her mother always told her good things come to those who wait. Now on to the appetizer, spoke May, as she strutted to the bound man. She threw away the covers obscuring the sacred nether region of the man before her. And what she saw astounded her. There, sticking up like a pole, was a 9.5-inch cock. She expected him to be big, but wow. Regaining herself from her stupor, May grasped Naruto's hardened member in her soft hand, causing the blonde to moan a little. She smirked at what she was able to achieve. The stoic, calm, reserved Ryu putty in her hands. She licked the underside of Naruto's penis before she assaulted the rest of the pole with her mouth. Naruto moaned in delight at the oral work. Her mouth was dangerous, on the battlefield and in bed. His body was shivering, and he couldn't take the teasing from the auburn-haired woman. If he wasn't chained up with frilly cuffs like sexual deviant, he would be pounding that ass hard. While still giving him a blowjob, May continued to lick the underside of the shaft for the pleasure of the man chained up like a prisoner. I am close, whispered Naruto, signaling his release. May took it in stride and continued to bob her head with Ryu's dick in her mouth. I am coming, shouted Naruto as he squirted rope after rope of cum into Mai's mouth, which she drank in happily. With an audible pop, Mai's mouth left Naruto's cock. That was delicious, spoke May. But Naruto ignored her, trying to get over the throngs of ecstasy. He felt shuffling on his body where he looked up to see May ready to impale herself on his still rock-hard cock. Time for the main course. She plunged herself on Naruto's cock, causing her eyes to widen and Naruto to gasp at the feeling. This wasn't the first time for May, but for Naruto it was. Aside from Conan, he barely interacted with women for more than a minute. May was an exception. Although the feeling felt awesome in Naruto's opinion, there was something missing, as if a void needed to be filled. So he watched as Mei started to ride and bounce on him like a pogo stick. Her pleasure would skyrocket when she felt Naruto's penis kiss her womb. She first started out at a slow agonizing pace, but her hips picked up speed and through half-lidded eyes she tried to keep contact with her blonde prisoner. Naruto, having finally had enough of the cage's teasing, broke free from his fluffy restraints with his enhanced strength, grasped Mai's firm but soft buttocks and started to piston himself inside her snatch. Nothing was heard except for panting, moans, grunts and the slapping sound of skin meeting skin, along with the squelching that came with it. "Yes, faster!" shouted Mei. And Naruto obeyed her, picking up his pace. "Harder!" yelled Mei, which caused Naruto to drive himself deeper into the woman. Mai's eyes rolled back into her head at the pleasure overload she was feeling. This was the best sex in her life. Her own personal toy. She was feeling her climax washing over her like a wave. She was so close now, only a little more. Naruto felt her lower lips tighten around his cock, milking him of his cum. "I'm coming!" shouted Mei as her orgasm washed over her. Naruto too released his own orgasm and sprayed her inner walls with white. A few seconds later, both got over the throes of their individual orgasms. And in a fast moment, Mei found herself lying on her stomach, and her ass high in the air. And like an animal, Naruto started to brutally fuck her ass. She screamed at the top of her lungs in bliss. She had only tried anal once or twice with the few boyfriends she had over the years. Primal instincts hitting him hard, the urge to continue fucking the cage was immense, and Naruto was reveling in it. He had lost his virginity, and he didn't really care. Right now he was intent on continuing his anal with the Mizukage. Mai's ass proved to be tighter than her pussy, and right now it was draining, milking him like a cow. He could feel his release coming. "Ah yes, harder, faster!" screamed Mei, and she continued to scream until she nearly made Naruto's eardrums burst, so he pushed her head into the pillow, trying to muffle her screaming. He was close, so close right now. Naruto grunted and shot bullets of cum into Mai's ass, the white baby batter, coating her anal walls. When he looked, he noticed that he and Mei were both coated with a thin gleam of sweat. And he felt tired, fatigued. Sex really took it out of him. Both man and woman succumbed to exhaustion. And slept for at least another hour. Lemon end, sorry if it's bad, thank you if it's good. It was noon and the sun was shining valiantly over the sky like an emperor. A certain blue-haired woman was currently wondering where her powerful partner went off to. She woke up to find his room empty and devoid. She searched around the hotel room some more, hoping to find an inkling to where he might be. But there was no evidence that he was in the hotel at all. If he got captured again, she wouldn't lift a finger. For she had nothing to worry about. Although there was something stranger than anything she had known. His cloak and the rest of his clothes were still in his room. She doubted that he had his armor with him. The samurai-like armor did draw attention to some. She would wait in the hotel until her partner returned. She did care about Ryu on a level similar to friendship, a very peculiar and distant friendship. But still she could see that her partner was a scarred individual, emotional scars, not physical. She knew why he was so reserved and closed off. He had every reason to be, for she too was like that ever since the death of Yahiko. But he was emotionless. It's as if his emotions were bottled onto a shelf and forgotten. She thought that maybe she could help him with his problems. It was the least she could do since he was already doing so much for her with his plan. Though she doubted she could heal all the scars. She had to make him open up like blooming flower, if her was ever going to accept and forget the pain that was caused by others. So something like that had to be treated with sensitivity, since she had a feeling that he wasn't going to reveal everything about himself so readily. She sighed. She was overthinking things. Plus he was going to make her stronger, wasn't he? Formed this Uzumaki clan. But first she had to wait. For someone who took his dear sweet time when it came to certain things. Naruto could feel himself waking up from his dreamless sleep. After his unique night terrors, those weeks ago, Naruto had yet to feel a real dream or nightmare. He wondered if there was something wrong with him. Yes, something was wrong with him. Psychologically, he was a mess. He couldn't feel anything, so he replicated his feelings to convey what he would believe people would react to. He asked Setsu how good he was at imitating emotions, but the plant man just said he was alright. He wondered briefly if there would be some opportunity to regain what he had lost. Because of his lack of emotions, he felt little empathy or remorse, someone which Madara praised, but he wasn't so sure with it. He wanted the Eye of the Moon plan to happen to bring back his emotions. That was the only way Naruto believed he could get them back. but it would be some time before that would happen. Right now he had to escape from the redhead devil known as Mei Terumi, the Godei Mizukage. He wasn't sure if she was persistent, or there was something not right with her. No matter, because he had to get out of the current position they were in. The redhead was currently lying on top of him with their legs intertwined, restricting the movement of the blonde. Thinking of something off the top of his head, Naruto saw a pillow to his left. Using the Koerami no Jutsu, body replacement technique, Naruto substituted himself with the pillow to escape the clutches of the beast known as the Mizukage. He also performed contraception jutsu, so she won't fall pregnant. That was the last thing he needed at the moment. Also he had to be careful so not to wake her. Luckily he was successful as he didn't wake the leader of Kirigakure. And he didn't have to sacrifice body part. Now the tricky bit came. Looking for his clothes. It took a few minutes, but he was unable to find his clothing, not his cloak, gloves or pants. He had to find his pants at least. But he searched everywhere in the room, but there was no sign of his black attire. He left the room and searched around the Mizukage mansion, but he found no inkling of his clothing, and then it came to him. Mei stripped him first before kidnapping him. There was no point on explaining to any of you about how the Mizukage was able to lug a naked man around a large village. Seeing no alternative than to strut around Kirigakure naked, Naruto activated one of his handy infiltration techniques. Mizugakure no Jutsu, hiding with camouflage technique. Spoke Naruto as his body became invisible to other surroundings. He quickly clutched his junk in his invisible state and left the mansion hastily. He ran across the rooftops of the village hoping to avoid the villages and get back his clothing. Making sure not to move too fast so to create an air distortion where shinobi would be alerted to his location. Naruto within a few minutes was nearing the hotel room he and Konan shared. Swiftly opening the door and checking the outside of the hotel did Naruto release his invisibility and was visible again. He sighed in relief as he was able to get away from Mei and not be seen. However, as he turned around, he came face to face with Konan, who was blushing furiously. Naruto wondered what could have caused such a thing. But remembering his current choice of attire, he too quickly blushed. Konan was just waiting for Ryu to return, but she did not expect for him to come naked and have fluffy handcuffs chained around his ankles and wrists. And she was flabbergasted at his size. Did he just happen to stick a massive sausage on his nether region? She could feel a small trickle of blood escape her nose as she kept inspecting Naruto's one-eyed snake. "I can explain," spoke Naruto quickly as he shielded his cock with his hands. "No, you can't explain, your excuse would be too wild to believe. Just get dressed," ordered Konan as she disappeared into another room, holding her face in her soft hands, trying to forget about the perverted images that was etching their way into her head. Apparently she did adopt some things from Drea, maybe a little of his pervertedness. 10 minutes later Naruto had gotten dressed back into his black cloak, gloves, pants and boots. The two Akatsuki members just waited in their rooms for an acceptable amount of time. Some time later both Naruto and Konan were walking, though Kirigakure wearing their Akatsuki cloaks. Naruto and his female partner both had their very awkward meet and greet. Konan's eyebrow kept ticking thinking about, well, I think you know what she's thinking about. While Naruto on the other hand, kept pulling on his hood so to hide his face, so nobody get see his embarrassment over the certain things that had happened today. Today they were going to receive their last assignment in the Land of Water, and then move on with other missions that Nagato would give them. Naruto would be lying if he said he wasn't excited to capture the Biju, especially the Kyuubi. He really wanted to fight the monster fox so much. He didn't blame the Kyuubi for how he was treated in the village. In fact, he couldn't be angry at the Kyuubi. He just really wanted to fight the strongest of the 9 Biju because he wouldn't stand a chance against their original form. He was brought of his thoughts when the sight of the Mizukage's tower entered his view. He became slack-jawed knowing that he would see Mei again. The thought filled him with dread. But he was going to suck it up and accept the mission. So now he was standing with Konan in front of the Mizukage, who was smirking delightfully at him. He could only imagine why. But it was a little annoying since her eyes only traveled on him and him could literally see the hidden lust and wanting she had for him. He needed to be away from this woman and soon. "I have a mission for the both of you that will take you out of the Land of Water and to the Land of Waves," spoke Mei. Naruto tried to hold back the feeling of surprise. The Land of Waves, thought Naruto. He could remember his first true mission as a shinobi. With Kakashi, Sasuke and that pink-haired girl he could scarcely remember. That place. was one of the few locations in the world where people acknowledged his existence. When he walked through those streets, people were smiling and looking at him with eyes filled with praise. Back then it made him happy. Happy to know that he believed that he could change his own village's views of him. He believed that when word reached back to Konoha that they would at least look at him. But he was wrong. Instead they praised Sasuke, Kakashi and Sakura. They condemned what they believed, thinking that saving a country was not something a demon would do. They ignored everything as if it wasn't there. But it didn't matter now, nor shall it matter. I want you two to retrieve the Kubai Kiriboko, decapitating carving knife. You see, I wish to rebuild the Kiri no Shinobi Gaiden Skychinen Shu, 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, and it recently came to my attention that the blade is residing in the land of waves. Kiri only has one of the swords, Hirankurei, twin sword, which is currently being wielded by Chujiro. Bringing back the blade could increase the current quality of power between my shinobi, as the swords are well sought after and many will attempt to gain advantages over others with the sword as motivation. Spoke Mei, clarifying her plans and mission details. We will go within the hour, Mizukage-sama. Spoke Konan as she turned and left the room. Please, come back safely. Ryu-kun, said Mei in a sultry manner which sent chills up Rya's spine. He too left the room, eager to evade the Mizukage. And so Ryu and Konan left the land of water for the land of waves to retrieve a famous sword. But Naruto wondered. The people of the land of waves, would he see them or ghosts? Naruto activated his bat transformation and Konan unfolded her body into multiple paper butterflies. Their destination, a land of ghosts and memories. En route to the land of waves, a cloud of bats and a swarm of paper butterflies were flying through trees and other natural objects. However, the bats slowed down to a stop near a rocky canyon and they started bombing each other, and soon a misty form was starting to take shape, where it burst from the mist and landed gracefully on a canyon. Next to him, butterflies folded together, revealing a woman with blue hair and an Akatsuki cloak. Why have we stopped? Questioned Konan. Naruto turned to face her. Like I told you back in Kirigakure, I need you to hold on to something for me. Spoke Naruto. Now open your mouth, ordered the blonde. Konan widened her eyes in confusion and slight embarrassment. What? Queried Konan as she stared at her partner quizzically. I will be more polite this time, please open your mouth so I may put something in there, said Naruto neutrally. The reaction, Konan narrowed her eyes in understanding and a stain of pink flashed across her face. If you try to stick your rod into any part of my body, you'll find it missing the next time you look. And I will warn you this time and this time only. I am not an easy catch, understand? Spoke Konan with a demonic voice that would scare ordinary men. Naruto raised his eyebrow in confusion until a flush of pink etched its way across his face, signifying that he understood what she meant. Apparently the incident that happened at the hotel has yet to be forgotten. You misunderstand, spoke Naruto. He rolled up his cloak sleeves, showing off his bare muscular arm. He bit into his arm, which was strong enough to draw blood. The blonde allowed the blood to trickle down his arm and coating his black glove with numerous paths of the red liquid. He performed a few hand seals and slammed his blooded hand on the ground. Kachiyo's no jutsu, summoning technique, roared Naruto, where a plume of smoke was seen. When the smoke cleared, Konan beheld witness to a wolf. Its coat was white and light gray with several patches of dark gray around its body and eyes. But its eyes was what truly surprised Konan, because staring at her were a blood-red pair of Sharingan eyes staring at her. I'm entrusting this wolf to you, said Naruto, gaining Konan's attention. His name is Koinu, puppy, and as you can see, his eyes is what makes him valuable. Why would you give me a wolf? Even though he has the Sharingan, I don't see why I would be best to care for him, spoke Konan. His name is Koinu, and I'm confiding him to you as a sign of faith and trust. The eyes in Koinu's sockets are unbelievably powerful, and if anyone was to acquire them, well, let's just say what happens afterward shall be disastrous, clarified Naruto, where Koinu barked in response, causing Naruto to scratch him behind the ear, something which the wolf loved. I believe that you are the most suited to protect him since I can trust you. Konan widened her eyes a little. If Ryu was leaving this wolf to her, that meant that he trusted her, and she was hesitant to break his trust. Not only that, if you are in danger, Koinu can assist you by utilizing the Sharingan's exclusive and unique techniques at any time. Naruto needed to protect those certain eyes. They were his eyes, the ones in his sockets were Madara's before he had his Unas transplanted. The wolf's eyes were, originally Naruto's ocean blue. After discovering the powers of the Kamionaneo, Madara and Naruto took certain steps to keep the eyes from falling into others' hands. The power they wielded were unimaginable, and the devastation beyond imaginable. Kamionaneo was hailed as the most powerful of the Mangekyo's abilities, only being rivaled by Susanoo. Naruto had taken the eyes from Madara's corpse after the old goat died. With those eyes, you can wage a war and be victorious. Aside from the Kuminju no Yuki, 9 masked beasts of valor, there were other jutsu that the Kamionaneo could perform, equal and greater in power to that of the Amaterasu and the Tsukuyomi. Konan sighed in defeat. Besides, if this meant Ryu trusted her, then so be it. Fine, said Konan. Just get down on your knees and open your mouth, stated Naruto simply. Konan closed her eyes in unease. He said earlier to open her mouth, and the incident earlier that day did not help. She was going to kill him if he ever revealed what happened just now. Koinu the wolf backed up a little and launched itself into Konan's mouth, where it slipped through her throat easily. Konan noted that Koinu tasted like wet dirt after all the time she was pushed to the ground as a child. Finally, the wolf's tail was the last thing jutting out of her mouth, and Konan slurped the tail up like it was a strand of spaghetti. She coughed for a while and held her throat. The sensation was strange, and it did hurt a little, while it also tickled from the large dog's fur. If Drea can have a toad living in his stomach, why not Konan? She coughed a little through half-lidded eyes, and she was able to make out a hand in front of her, waiting to ease her up on her feet. She looked up to see Ryu with what appeared to be a pained expression, but it only lasted for a second. She took his hand in her own, where he gently pulled her up to her feet as if she was a fragile doll, not wanting to be broken. I'm sorry, said Naruto, making Konan's brows to raise. Ryu never apologized, so this was something new to her. Just so you know, I'm grateful for you doing that. Really. And I'm sorry for causing you harm, said Naruto. All the time she was Ryo's partner, he had never been grateful for anything. He considered everything and anything trivial around him to be a chore, but for him to show gratitude was almost alien to Konan. Maybe she was wrong about her views of yokais, maybe he truly had emotions after all. We should get going, we have to retrieve Zabuza's blade after all. Konan nodded at him and both left, but the blue-haired woman had a small smile on her face. She believed that beneath that cold exterior was someone full of love and life. He just needed someone to help him see it. The Akatsuki partners were trailing through a forest to the land of waves. They had foregone traveling by paper and bats when they neared the country. It would be a waste of chakra, and it was far easier to walk there. The two hadn't spoken to each other in a while, not since Naruto stuffed a furry animal down Konan's throat. But now their mission would begin soon, once they entered the land of waves. Luckily, Naruto knew the location of the sword. It should still be there when he arrived. But he kept his hood up and cast a genjutsu over his eyes, making him appear with gray eyes instead of Sharingan. People of the country might recognize him from his time as his mask, but he doubted that. He felt his hood being pulled back into its original position, draped over his back. He looked at Konan, surmising that she had done the action. Words were not needed since Konan understood that look on Rya's face. You will only draw more attention to yourself when you have your hood up. It's easier just to look like yourself, clarified Konan. Ryu sighed at her, knowing she was right. A few minutes passed, and both Naruto and Konan could see a massive long bridge that connected the main land to the land of waves. When they made their way to the bridge, they read the gold plaque over near one of the bridge's checkpoints. And in big bold letters was the name of the bridge. The Great Naruto Bridge. So many memories came to the blonde about this particular landmark. Some of his happiest moments as his mask, and also life and character-changing events, took place on this bridge. Flashback. On a large bridge, a dense mist blanketed the architecture, shrouding everything within its vicinity. 4 individuals were making their way to the bridge to finish construction. The bridge was known as the last hope of the country. A small tyrant had taken over the economy and drained it of its hope and future. In response to this, 4 shinobi from the strongest of the hidden villages were sent to protect the bridge with the cost of their lives. These ninja were only a genin team, with a jonin sensei. However, among the team was the village's top rookie, Sasuke Uchiha, the brightest mind and best young kunoichi, Sakura Haruno, the famed and legendary Kakashi Hatake of the Sharingan Eye. And finally the number 1 hyperactive, loudest knucklehead ninja, Naruto Uzumaki, the Kyubi Jinchuriki. They were assigned by the Sandaime Hokage to assist and protect the bridge builder Tazuna until the completion of the bridge, where the economy in the land of waves would be restored. However, Gato, a wealthy shipping magnate and founder of the Gato Company, was planning to stop them. However, Gato was in fact a drug kingpin along with smuggling illegal goods. He targeted the land of waves because of its rich economy where he stole the money and land, leaving the people to die. Gato contracted a wanted missing ninja, who was famous around the world. Zabuza Momoki, a former swordsman of the mist. Things escalated within the land of waves. Zabuza attacked and Kakashi was bedridden. The genin trained to hone their chakra to be ready for the next attack. And now Zabuza was attacking again with his partner Haku. Things were tense on the bridge as Sasuke faced off against Haku and Kakashi fought with Zabuza. Sasuke was being dominated by the ice release user, Sakura, in an attempt to help her beloved through him a kunai, which was instead caught by Haku. But this distracted the Hyotan user long enough for a shuriken to slash his mask. And later how blonde hero emerged from a dramatic plume of smoke. Many face faulted at the blonde boy's lack of deception and was quickly chastised by his sensei for it. Because of his complacent nature, Naruto's arrival only made matters worse. He was later allowed himself, unknowingly, to be trapped within Haku's deadly jutsu. Sasuke was struck down by the older boy and later Naruto tapped into his Baju's chakra, allowing him to smite Haku and later defeat him. You're that boy," spoke Naruto as his fist was inches away from Haku's face. "Why do you hesitate?" questioned Haku in a monotone voice. "You promised to avenge your friend by killing me. Or was that promise merely empty words?" continued Haku. Naruto growled for a few seconds, then looked back at Sasuke's corpse. He turned back to his opponent and struck him across the face, which caused Haku to fall to the ground and spit up blood. "Your attacks lack the ferocity they had. You can't kill me with attacks like those. You can't keep your promise while holding back as you are," said Haku, picking himself off the ground. He wiped the trail of blood of his lip with his sleeve. "Perhaps your friend didn't mean that much to you as you believe." He then remembered Haku's words, as if he was reliving those moments. There are people who make this mistake. Not killing your enemy out of compassion or pity, just letting them continue to draw breath, can you understand? Not having a dream. Not being needed by anyone. The pain of merely being alive, merely existing. What use would you be to anyone? Their life would have no meaning, existing through pain and struggle, signifying nothing, spoke Haku as he stood to his feet. "What are you trying to say?" questioned Naruto. Haku simply smiled a small smile. "You really are a blind little one. I am speaking of myself," said Haku. "This battle has proven to me that I am no longer of any use to Zabuza-sama. My reason for existing has been stripped away from me like clothes." "Why think like that?" queried Naruto to himself. "Zabuza. Why care for that guy anyway? Why devote yourself to scum who has no meaning of the word honor? Is that guy so important to you?" "That's the sorriest thing I've ever heard. There were others who were once important to me. A long time ago," stated Haku. "My parents. They were farmers that lived in a snowy mountainous village in the land of water. We were very poor, but we were content. My parents were good people, and they were kind to me. However, something happened long before my birth. It wasn't my fault, it was the blood." "Blood?" wondered Naruto. "My father changed, he killed my mother and tried to kill me," spoke Haku, causing Naruto to gasp at the monstrous act. People believed that the civil wars that centered around the land of water were caused by clans of shinobi with Keki Genkai. The clans of shinobi were hated and shunned after the many civil wars ended in the land of water, my clan among them. They went into two, hiding so to not be found, denying the existence of their birthright and concealing their abilities. Many who were found were hunted down like animals. They even made a sport from hunting the Keki Genkai wielders, where the people had fun killing them. If you searched your friend's memories, you would have found hardship for bearing a Keki Genkai. You can never understand the cruelty people can commit. They fear that which they don't understand. Naruto's eyes became a little downcast. He understood what it was like far too well. My mother was from the Yuki clan of Kiri. She was successful in obscuring her Keki Genkai. She met and fell in love with a simple farmer and they married each other. After that, my mother believed she would lead a peaceful life with no hardships to the end of her days. Until my father had discovered my mother's and my own abilities. A day came when my father killed my mother. He was in tears and still, he had no qualms about killing her and me. Before I realized it, I killed my father using my Keki Genkai. After I was myself again, I was no longer myself. My parents were gone and I was alone, and something was taken from me, my emotions and my purpose. Because of that, I held little remorse for the world, as if my existence didn't matter. No one needed me, so I was nobody," monologued Haku. "Like me," thought Naruto sadly. Why are you so determined to be Hokage, the greatest shinobi in your village, the most acknowledged and respected? You want their eyes, looking at you, not through you, to recognize you as a person, and a great ninja. It's only through the eyes others do people such as ourselves have significance. People don't look at you, let alone know you're there. It's like you don't truly exist. Now if someone came into your life and acknowledged you with every part of their body to their heart, wouldn't that person become important to you? Zabuza looked at me, and his eyes were not rife with hatred or fear. He did not shun or ignore me for my abilities. Indeed, my powers were what he wanted. He gave me a reason to live. A purpose. Continued Haku. Some tears were welling up in the corners of his eyes. I was so happy. I have failed you, Zabuza-sama. I have been unable to become the weapon you sought. Spoke Haku. Naruto-kun. Please. Said Haku, still maintaining Naruto's attention. Haku's eyes pierced Naruto's with emptiness as if his life was taken right before him. Kill me. Flashback end. I became something which you talked about. Haku. Thought Naruto as he kept staring emotionlessly at the plaque. Conan was staring at Ryu, had been staring at the plaque for a while, and it was unnerving Conan. She knew that the bridge was named after the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. She of course knew the names of the Jinchuriki since it was important to know who they were. However, Conan could see that there was something that was emotionally deadening her partner. Did this country have some significance to him? She could be sure. She doubted words could get through to the blonde if he had been staring at the plaque for this amount of time. She walked up to the man, intending for him to come back to reality. Naruto could feel this soft pressure on his hand where regained his himself. When he looked down, he saw Conan's hand latching onto his, and with an expression that meant she was seemingly concerned for him. Are you all right? Asked Conan softly. At first Naruto believed that she was faking concern over him, since people did that in his past. But deciding to let it go, he played along. I'm fine. I know where the sword is, we shouldn't be here for too long. Spoke Naruto neutrally as he pulled his hand away from Conan's roughly. The blue woman sighed. She knew that there was always something wrong. She trailed behind him, always keeping her eyes on his black and red form. If she wanted to help him, then he needed to open up some of himself. The two Akatsuki members were standing on a large cliff overlooking the Great Naruto Bridge and a small village of the Land of Waves. Their sun was still, holding its sway over the world as it bathed everything in its warming light. Naruto and Conan stood before two graves, stones made of wood shaped like crosses. The gravestones were both drenched in moss, and the wood appeared to have decayed after a few years. One of the grave markers was a brown sash with a fringe trail wrapped around the marker, while the other supposed to have had a massive sword behind it. Only problem was the sword was gone. The sword is gone, stated Conan emotionlessly. So it seems, replied Naruto. It was here the last time I was in this country. Then obviously someone must have taken it, responded Conan. Obviously, retorted Naruto. We should ask around, see if anyone has any idea where it is, continued Conan. Naruto nodded at her, but when he looked at Haku's grave, like before, he could remember his words from their time in the forest. Flashback. Morning was starting to creep over the Land of Waves. Birds chirped happily as their songs filled the air. The light from the sun was hugging the darkness. However, something was different. There was a boy wearing a bright orange jumpsuit with yellow blonde hair and 3 distinct whisker marks. The boy was currently lying on the ground with his arms and legs splayed across the ground, with a kunai in his hand and scuff marks covering his body, alerting everyone to the fact that the boy must have been training hard and extensively. This boy was Naruto, and he was currently asleep from all the training he had gone through. He was attempting to master the tree climbing exercise, which improved a person's chakra control. He was so still that birds worked up the courage to land on his bed and do whatever birds do. However, there was another in the forest at the time. Someone who was picking medicinal herbs for someone who had been hurt. This person noticed Naruto sleeping in the forest. The person's eyes hardened with a steely look. The person walked up to Naruto slowly but carefully. The person poised their arm ready to strike Naruto. His arm inched closer and closer, ready to do what appeared to be waiting to strike Naruto, ready to kill him. Instead, the person nudged Naruto a couple of times in an attempt to wake him up. You'll catch a cold if you sleep here. Wake up. With those words, Naruto opened his eyes to see a woman standing over him. He pushed himself off the ground into a seated position, while trying to get over the grogginess in his eyes. Who the heck are you? Said Naruto tiredly. Once seeing the person, Naruto blushed in embarrassment. So what are you doing out here? Asked Naruto as he scratched his cheek. Gathering herbs. Stated the woman. Herbs? Questioned Naruto. Correct, they're used for treating and healing wounds. Answered the woman. A few minutes later, both the woman and Naruto were searching among the fields, looking for any specific healing herbs. Man, you work early. Whined Naruto a little. I like it early, it's calm, and yet I didn't expect to find anyone sleeping out here in the woods. Spoke Haku with playful curiousness. Naruto chuckled and simply responded with, I'm training. So you must be a shinobi because I noticed that headband you're wearing, or is it simply a fashion statement? Jested/questioned the woman. Yeah, only super awesome ninja like me can wear this headband. Boasted Naruto. Very impressive. Complimented the woman, causing Naruto to blush. You must be training for something dangerous. I'm just developing my skills so I can be stronger. Answered Naruto with a big grin. You seem strong now, isn't that enough? Questioned the woman. No, I need to become stronger so I can fulfill my dream. Spoke Naruto. Is that so, and your dream would be? To be the greatest Hokage. The strongest shinobi in my village so everyone can accept my existence and know that I'm somebody and also someone I have to prove something to as well. Shouted Naruto with vigor. So are you training for this person? Or just for yourself? Queried the woman. Naruto hummed blankly, which caused the woman to chuckle a little. Naruto heard this chuckle and demanded to know what was so funny. Is there someone who's precious to you? Asked the woman softly. Someone who? What are saying someone precious? Demanded Naruto as his eyes squinted in confusion. You see, when a person has something important they want to protect, that's when they become truly strong. Spoke the woman with wisdom, not knowing that those words would be what would drive Naruto to become stronger than what he was. Naruto let her words sink in like water, and there was truth to what she said. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Spoke Naruto, which made the woman smile. You will become strong, amazingly strong. Goodbye. Spoke the woman before she turned around and left. Hopefully we'll meet again sometime. Oh, and by the way, I'm a boy. Naruto grasped his face in his hands to horror. No way, he's prettier than Sakura-chan. Thought Naruto in dread. Flashback end. Naruto kept staring at Haku's grave like in his dreams. This melancholic feeling would wash over him. He remembered Haku fondly back then, and, even though it sounded strange, despite the fact they were enemies, he considered Haku a true friend. Sorry Haku, although I've become strong, I have yet to find a precious person to protect. And I also believe that finding a precious person to me is out of reach. Thought Naruto neutrally. I will bring you back when I achieve my dream world. You and Zabuza shall both exist again. Ryu, we should get going. Spoke Konan, who folded apart her body into paper. Naruto instead walked to the edge of the cliff, but not before looking back at the two graves. He gracefully jumped off the cliff, his Akatsuki cloak whipping in the air. The two Akatsuki members were walking through a rather rich district in the land of waves. Merchants and stores were seen across coveting buildings and trying to sell their wares. Some claimed them to be exotic, while more precious than diamonds. Naruto noted that the land of waves was far more lively and economically stable than when he had been here nearly 3 years ago. His old self would have smiled at it. His real self just stared at it blankly with a dead gaze. Luckily no one had recognized Naruto's face. Maybe without his iconic whisker marks people didn't recognize him. He also saw that several stores and restaurants were named after him and various members of Team 7 such as Naruto Ramen, Sakura Hot Springs and Sasuke pictures and paintings. He wondered if the Land of Waves have heard about Sasuke killing Naruto. But it didn't matter at the time, since the blonde was too busy at the time. However, something caught his eye. It was a shinobi store for weapons and sealing scrolls. Curiosity getting the better of him, Naruto ventured inside with Konan, raising her eyebrow at him. She was going to wait outside. Weapons didn't really interest her. The Sharingan wielder was currently surveying the racks of weapons and inspecting the sealing scrolls. And the blonde was impressed. The weapons were in fine condition and they were really shinobi weapons. Most shinobi stores outside of hidden villages made sloppy works, their kunes were greatly chipped, and warned that he doubted the knife could cut through butter. The sealing scrolls were horrendous. The sealing was so poor that the seal wouldn't work on anything, even a baby could create better seals. Well, since Naruto came from a clan exceptional in sealing, he had large expectations for seals, and any seal below B rank disgusted him. When it came to sealing, no one could rival Naruto except for the late Maito Uzumaki. Walking away from the racks and wandering around the store, was Naruto impressed? If trade in the land of waves could get these weapons, he wondered how great the economy would be in 10 years. Deciding to leave the store, because he had enough of it for one day, however, Naruto stopped when his breath hitched and his body stopped moving, like a statue. There, sitting on a stand, was a katana. But this was no ordinary katana. The blade, hilt and tsuba were completely white in color, and the tsuba had a hollow snowflake-like circle pattern, and a 1.5-meter long white ribbon was connected to the pommel with tough string which had a bell on it. Naruto was enthralled. The katana was amazingly beautiful in every word. But that wasn't what amazed him. How could they find such a sword here in some store? It's coincidental in every way. So how is this blade here when it was supposedly lost? The Shiroma Karen note Tsurugi, White Lotus Bud sword, contemplated Naruto. The Shiroma Karen was the sister sword of the Tonbaguri, forged by the same smith at the same forge during the height of a wondrous winter, while the Tonbaguri was forged during infectious summer. It was also known as the perfect counter to the Tonbaguri, which caused the Black Blade's special abilities to be useless when used against the Shiroma Karen. The white sword also had special powers and properties, as it reduced all defense into nothing. Example was when the Shiroma Karen battled an ordinary katana, it would cause the other katana to become as brittle as newly fallen snow, where the ordinary katana would break shortly afterwards. The blade was supposed to be lost when bandits attacked the Kagero temple, where the Tonbaguri was also held, and lost the blade shortly after. Finding this sword was too coincidental. Found something you like, young man? Spoke an elderly man walking on a cane. The old man had seen Naruto observing his most expensive item on stock. Where did you get this sword? Asked Naruto. Well, it was first given to my father, whose father gave it to him, whose father gave it to him, whose father gave it to him, who won it from a friend playing shogi. Explained the old man. Naruto raised his eyebrow at the rather blunt story. How much? Asked Naruto, wanting to know the price of the sword. Well, that's the problem. It's too expensive for any of those stuck-up posh nobles, who said it was far above our tastes, and I was going to pass it on to my son, but he died many years ago, and my wife before him died also. The old man sighed, trying not to remember the bitter memory. I can also see pain in your eyes. You lost someone recently, someone important to you, said the old man. Naruto didn't make any facial feature, but he knew the old man was right. If you want the sword, it's yours, young man, spoke the old shopkeeper. You honor me, but I can't accept such kindness, retorted Naruto. He got whacked over the back of his head with the old man's cane, something which Madara, the old goat, did to him. Naruto felt a sense of nostalgia. He really couldn't accept such a kindness when he received few from anyone. Don't give me that excuse. That old thing has been sitting there gathering dust for years. You can take that sword and you will? You will take that sword and you'll be happy about it. Discipline the old man. Naruto was currently nursing his head. Even with his tolerance for pain, the old man hit hard. It takes a man to wield a sword like that, and you're a man in your own right. Besides, I can't pass the sword on to anyone. You honor me by taking that sword. I'll get the sheath. The old man wobbled off to the back of the store. Naruto just stared, bewildered. The number of people to do him any kindness could be counted on his right hand. Although he believed the Sandaime and Uruka were kind because of him holding the Kyuubi at the time. Naruto picked up the white sword in his left hand. He also contrasted him receiving the Tonbaguri and being given the Shiroma Karen. He gained the Tonbaguri through violence and cruelty, but the Shiroma Karen was given to him through generosity and kindness. Naruto smiled a true smile, knowing that people could still be able to act through kindness. He inspected the blade some more before the old man returned with the sheath. I thank you, sir, for doing this for me, thanked Naruto emotionlessly but genuinely. Don't thank me, stated the old man, who sported a large smile. This world is full of hatred, and it festers with each day, spoke the man. I believe that it is the everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keep the darkness at bay. Random acts of unforgettable kindness, that is what stops hatred from spreading in this world, spoke the man with sagely wisdom. Naruto, of course, in his mind tried to deny it, that people were born cruel. But there was some truth to what the man said. Without saying a word, Naruto left the store, but not before giving the man a smile as a thank you. But once he left the store, he faded back into his emotionless state. He wasn't sure if he was truly emotionless or not, but these strange feelings would rise up in him when he was experiencing something very strong. The blonde found Conan waiting outside for him, and immediately, she eyed the white blade in Naruto's left hand before he sealed it into his left wrist seal. At least she didn't have to wait long for him to leave. Besides, she wanted to go see what else they had in the district. So now the two were walking again through the district again. Conan was interested with the sights around her. Besides, tomorrow was a special day for her. She wondered what she would get herself since she had never left Amigakure in years. Seeing a jewelry cart, Conan decided to see what was available and to see what she liked. My, aren't you a pretty flower?" complimented the woman who owned the cart and accessories. Conan rarely received compliments, so she just forced a smile and said a thank you in response. Her amber eyes darted from one necklace to Pandora charms. Her eyes soon landed on a pair of blue scaled hair clips shaped like flowers. "Those hair clips would look wonderful on you," spoke the old woman again. However, when Conan checked the price, it was just too expensive for her. Muttering a thank you and then leaving the cart, Naruto saw all that transpired, and he too walked up to the cart and eyed the blue hair clips. A few minutes later, both Naruto and Conan had enough of the district and instead were heading to a small cafe on the edge of town. Everything was going great before someone rudely bumped into Conan's shoulder. "Why don't you watch where you're going, idiot?" spoke the man, and instantly a look of anger sprouted from Conan's features. She was about to say something when she felt Ria's hand on her shoulder. The man that bumped into her thought that they were going to do something to him, so he took the initiative. Fatal mistake. "What, you got a problem, buddy? You wanna fight?" spoke the man. Instead, Naruto glared at him. Now, unlike Madara, when he glared at people they lost the will to fight. But when Naruto glares at people they lose the will to live. The man that bumped into Conan started going white in the face, staring into the gray eyes of the blonde-haired man. Naruto cast a genjutsu over his eyes to make them appear gray. He literally felt death staring at him, promising nothing but pain and anguish. The rude man did what any normal person would do. Run, while shouting about how some guy was going to kill him. "I could have handled it," quipped Conan. "Far easier this way, he'll be dead when the sun sets," spoke Naruto as he unclasped his hand from Conan's shoulder. When they made it to the cafe, Naruto ordered green tea, and so did Conan, although the blue-haired woman found something strange at the cafe. The waitresses all had hearts in their eyes, and all seemed to be fawning over her partner. She would admit he was amazingly handsome, but sometimes women were just so shallow. "Those women seem to have their eyes on you," spoke Conan blankly. "They can stare as long as they like, they want what they can't get," said Naruto as he sipped on his hot green tea. "However, they may be of some use." Naruto waved his hand over to the waitresses, and at the speed of lightning they were instantly by his side, and Conan could have sworn there were multiple hearts around their heads. "You wouldn't happen to know of the two graves overlooking the hill from here?" queried Naruto, to which the girls nodded vigorously. "By chance you wouldn't have happened to see a massive sword there by chance?" And the answer he received were the nods of their heads. "Do you know where that blade is? I happen to be a collector, and that blade catches my fancy, and it won't be the only thing I catch. If you help me," flirted Naruto in an attempt to use the girls, to which Conan frowned at. They revealed to him who had the sword and also told him where they live and more. Apparently a crime boss by the name of Tenzin Daikoku had the sword in his possession, and that supposedly he had 10,000 mercenaries as his bodyguards. Naruto scoffed at that number. If it was 10,000 shinobi, then he would be impressed. "So did you see anything you like when we passed by the district?" said Naruto, trying to start a conversation that wasn't work-related. "Well, yes, there were those hair clips I wanted, and also I thought it might be a good birthday present," spoke Conan with the tiniest hint of sadness. "It's your birthday?" stated Naruto in subtle surprise. "Tomorrow is my birthday, and since this is the first time I left Amigakure in years, so I wanted to get something special," spoke Conan, opening up some of her character. "How old will you be tomorrow?" Naruto knew he was treading on thin ice. Women didn't like to be reminded that they were old, and Conan might also take offense to it. "I'm 32 tomorrow," admitted Conan, who was not offended by the question. "Okay then," said Naruto, sipping on his green tea. "Although you don't want to hear this, but we're going to retrieve Zabuza's blade tomorrow. So be ready." The ground rumbled, shaking the earth. Thousands upon thousands of mercenaries from a rival clan were planning Tenzin's mansion. Apparently Tenzin had not paid off his massive gambling debts and had even stolen from that certain clan. Mercenaries were like pit bulls. They wouldn't give up until the job was done. Blood money was their currency, and that's all they were paid, along with the spoils that came with their job details. Two people were standing on a tree overlooking the army. They were wearing black cloaks with red clouds, and their faces showed no hint of fear. Mercenaries were unnaturally weak. If it was an army of shinobi, maybe they would be impressed. Tenzin must keep the sword close to him. Or at least someone is in possession of the sword, but is near Tenzin, like a bodyguard. Spoke Konan as she inspected the armies. You go and retrieve the sword. I'll deal with the mercenaries, said Naruto as he prepared to jump down to the makeshift battlefields. Just don't kill any of them, replied Konan, making Ryu look at her through his half-lidded eyes. Consider it a birthday wish. Konan's body unfolded into paper aeroplanes and flew to Tenzin's mansion. The mercenaries running on the path halted when a man wearing a black cloak with red clouds standing the middle of them. Who is this guy? Yelled a mercenary. Doesn't matter, we'll kill him too, shouted a mercenary on a horse who prepared a spear ready to stab Naruto. Instead, the blonde grasped with spear with his left hand, hefted it like it was nothing, and threw the mercenary into the air. When he would land, he would only suffer broken bones. Naruto sighed. Killing was so much more easier, but considering it was Konan's birthday, he would make an exception. He channeled chakra into his right eye where his eternal Mangekyo pattern appeared, which were 3 thick sides with small dagger-like protrusions and a concentric tomo pattern that surrounded his pupil. Kamionaneo, Kuminju no Yuki, Kamionaneo 9 masked beasts of valor, spoke Naruto as a large blue mandala appeared behind him and his beasts burst from their respective kanji. And before long they attacked the mercenaries and made sure not to kill them, but rather leave them in pitiful states that required immediate medical attention. Konan was briskly walking through Tenzin's mansion. She figured that he was on the top floor because Nagato's tower was the tallest in the village, so every villain, of course, resided in the tallest tower. She walked up the stairs and made sure to sneak by the guards who were too busy fighting with her partner. Once she reached the top floor, she found Tenzin squabbling like a pig. But how did you get up here? It's impossible, spoke Tenzin. You shall learn that nearly anything is not impossible for shinobi, and also weapons don't really work against me, replied Konan neutrally. Suddenly a burly muscular man burst through the wall wielding an immense sword that looked like a cleaver. Well, how about this weapon, bitch? Yelled at the man as he sliced her with the kubai kiriboko. But in replacement of blood, many paper sheets wrapped around the burly man, cutting off his supply of oxygen. Tenzin was scared. His strongest mercenary was taken down in a mere few seconds by this woman wearing a strange cloak. Konan tried to pick up the sword from the unconscious man, though she noted that the sword was extremely heavy. She wondered if the swordsmen of the mist had special training to have such weapons. However, her troubles were solved when Ryu placed his hand over her and lifted up the blade, although with some effort. We have what we came here for. Let's go, said Ryu with a blank face. Now that Naruto thought about it, Tenzin was a former politician for the Land of Water. He betrayed the country apparently after Zabuza's attempted coup. And this mission was so simple that even Chunin could do it. But wait, if the sword stayed at the gravesite, it would be easy. With the amount of Tenzin's men, it would be hard for anyone without a team of jonin. Mei knew Tenzin had the sword and she wanted Ryu to decimate his forces by stealing the sword. That woman, thought Naruto in annoyance. He got duped. That woman was as slippery as a eel. Konan nodded to her partner's order and both left, leaving Tenzin alone. However, the crime boss was also wondering if he had seen the blonde man before. He looked almost like an older, whisker-less Naruto Uzumaki. The blonde brat was famous in the Land of Waves, and he became famous around the world once his true heritage was revealed. Konan and Ryu were walking down a path. Naruto had sealed the kubai kiriboko so to be easier to travel with. That reminds me, spoke Naruto aloud as if he just discovered a question to the universe. He reached into his Akatsuki cloak and pulled out a few objects wrapped with brown wrapping and bound with twine. He handed the larger of the two objects. Happy birthday! Congratulated Naruto as he handed the object to Konan, who unbound the item. And the first present was a pair of fingerless, white Tekko shinobi handcovers that reached up and past the elbow and to the bicep. I imbued those with seals made just for you. The right Teko has a tracker seal, so long as you're wearing it I'll find you anywhere in the world, while the left Teko is equipped with a barrier seal. It can sense when an attack will kill and immediately create a barrier shielding you from harm. The blue-haired woman looked at them for a while before taking them from Ryu and trying them on, and they fit quite comfortably. "Thank you," said Conan with a soft smile. No one had ever really bothered to get her anything. Growing up as an orphan meant she had to take what she could get. Naruto handed the second present, which was also wrapped in twine. Conan, like before, unwrapped the gift, where it was a small flippable box meant to hold small jewelry. When Conan opened the box, her breath hitched slightly. It was the hair clips she was looking at yesterday. The blue scaled ones. Conan smiled a little in delight. She really wanted those hair clips but were just too expensive. She tried to attach the clips to her hair, but was instead intercepted by her blonde Sharingan-wielding partner. "Let me," he whispered softly. He took the clips from her hands and clipped them to her left bang near her hairline. And even he had to admit that Conan was a remarkably gorgeous woman. "These hair clips I imbued with seals also. When you want to fire off and attack, I can remotely pour my chakra into you in short bursts, thereby allowing your techniques to become stronger and faster. This makes up the necessary requirements for normal combos," explained Naruto. "Now I have one more present for you." He poured chakra into the seal on his left wrist and unsealed the Shiromakaren no Tsurugi. And he held it out for Conan. The blue-haired woman took the sword into her hands and examined its craft. She didn't know much about kenjutsu or weapons, but even she knew that the sword was far above high quality. "Thank you, but I'm not good at kenjutsu and I don't think I'll find any teacher to help me," said Conan blankly. "I'll teach you," responded Naruto emotionlessly, making Conan raise her eyebrows. "I'm a kenjutsu master. I'll teach you what I know, and even help you develop your own style. I could even teach sealing if that's what you wish." Conan looked back down at the sword. It was always good to learn new things. She was about to answer him, but when she looked up she saw he was gone. She turned her head to the left to see him walking away. She sighed and followed after him. But Naruto had a small grin. It was tiny and nearly unnoticeable, but it was there nonetheless. Recently, after meeting Conan, Naruto started feeling this peculiar sensations. It was very unreal to him, but maybe. Mei was in her office in the Land of Water, waiting for her enforcers Ryu and Conan. She had one more mission for them and she had been paying the Akatsuki graciously. Though she smirked when her thoughts traveled to Ryu, oh how she wanted to tie him up again. But she doubted the chances of that happening again. She heard a knock at the door and she ushered the person in. "Mizuki-sama, Ryu Yokais and Conan have returned," proclaimed Deo. Mei smirked even more. Her favorite toy was back in the village again. Conan walked through the door first with her new teko and hair clips, which were pinned onto her left bang, and with the Shiromakaren. Shortly after that Naruto walked through, although he appeared to be less than happy to be there, if he could feel happiness at all. "So I trust the mission was success," spoke Mei with an all-too-sweet smile, which made Naruto's eyebrow tick in annoyance. He took out the scroll containing the Kubai Kiriboko. "Please Mizuki-sama, could you assign us our next mission?" demanded Conan politely. Mei did not lose her grin, nor did she pay attention to what Conan had to say. "There is a single bandit camp that has been causing trouble for the civilians of the Land of Water. Please deal with these awful men, Ryu-kun," pleaded Mei with puppy dog eyes. Naruto was quite unnerved at those eyes. He needed to escape the Land of Water, and soon. Io, who saw what Mei was doing and Ryu's reaction, understood perfectly how Naruto was feeling. Mei had done the same thing to a poor Chunin, and the problem why Mei was not married by now was because she was too clingy, and it caused most if not all men who was involved romantically with her to be put into a madhouse or leave the country entirely. Some men faked their own deaths to rid themselves of her. She even kidnapped a few handsome men. And it seems Ryu was ensnared into the web of seduction from the Black Widow known as Mei Terumi, for like a spider, she always killed her mates. And that's why Mei didn't like the mention of her love life. Ryu with his new mission scurried out of the room like a scared mouse, not caring where the bandit camp was. Conan followed after him, but just briskly walked out. "How should we handle it?" asked Naruto as the two partners observed the large bandit camp that was terrorizing the Land of Water. "We go in together, we should work on our teamwork, possibly create combo attacks," replied Konana, whose face was neutral. Pain-sama appreciates when the teams of the Akatsuki are able to work cohesively together, or at least, in combat scenarios. "I agree, my wind and lightning natures will be of benefit to you as it can enhance your paper ninjutsu, making your paper sharp or fast," explained Naruto as he unsealed the Tonbagari. Conan nodded and both launched themselves at the bandit camp, taking the humans without honor unawares. Conan, despite years of hardening as from the deaths of Yahiko and the other Akatsuki, was still underneath all that, a gentle soul and preferred to kill her enemies with the least amount of pain possible. So she used her paper sheets to asphyxiate her opponents. She fired off some paper shurikens at 2 incoming enemies where the paper, as hard as steel, easily cut through the men. Ryu meanwhile was cutting down his opponents quickly using the Tanbagari and wind-enhanced shuriken to decimate the bandits. Conan folded several paper sheets in intricate aeroplanes. Using her paper powers, she fired off the paper aeroplanes, but she felt a burst of chakra enter her where her aeroplanes gained a what appeared to be wind lance on the aeroplane's tip where it became sharper and faster. It easily punctured and pierced the bandits like bullets. She turned her head quickly to see Ryu nod at her. He must have pumped his chakra into her, making her attack stronger. Naruto jumped over to her position when more bandits converged around him. "Ready your attack, Conan," spoke Naruto as he was back to back with her. But something clicked in Conan's mind. She turned her head to look at her partner, but instead of seeing his golden hair and red eyes, she saw orange hair like a sunset and brown eyes. Flashback. "Ready your attack, Conan," spoke Yahiko as he was fighting off Kumo shinobi in the Land of Rain. The Akatsuki were trying to bring peace to the land through mutual understanding and expanse. They were going to meet the Kumo shinobi in an attempt at peaceful negotiation. However, the peace talks didn't go exactly as planned, and one thing led to the other, and well, they were in the situation they were in now. It all started when Yahiko made a terrible speech. He was never good at speeches. "All right," yelled Conan as she had her paper surround them in a sort of protective battlement. "Nagato, use your wind jutsu to enhance Conan's papers," ordered Yahiko, to which Nagato nodded. The redhead placed his hand on Conan's shoulder, funneling wind chakra into her. Conan fired off her paper sheets, which she mentally folded into shuriken and mentally threw them at the enemy, where the shuriken had an extra set of blades useful for chopping down numbers. Yahiko, not wanting to be outdone by Conan, prepared a water jutsu. "Sutan, Kazui no Suman, water release, flooding water gate," yelled Yahiko as he spewed water from his mouth onto the ground, making the already slippery wet ground even more slippery, where the Kumo shinobi lost balance from the force of the water. Nagato created a mechanical arm jutting out of his shoulder with the Shurato, Asura Path, and started firing off several guided missiles at the downed shinobi, where they exploded on contact and reduced the shinobi into ash. A few seconds passed and things started settling down around the muddied area. "Well, that went well," spoke Yahiko ironically, which caused Conan and Nagato to sweat drop at him. "If you call this a success," reminded Nagato, which caused Yahiko to face fault, and before long the two started arguing with each other. Conan just smiled happily at her two best friends. Flashback end. "Katan, Kain Keisekihiki, fire release, flame formation battlement," yelled Naruto as he slammed his left hand on the ground, and streaks of flames and fire came forth from his fingers, where they would also branch out into other streaks of fire. Many of the bandit caught on fire. Naruto, kneeling down on the ground, watched his flames burn the bandits, and he watched them neutrally, no emotion. "Conan, cut them down," ordered Naruto, where he placed his hand on Conan without looking. He noted that part of the woman he was touching was soft and yet firm. He pumped his chakra into her, where she mentally shot her paper sheets at the last of the bandits who were on fire, where they dropped to the ground dead. Naruto, seeing with his Sharingan that all the bandits were made no move other than thinking his fingers into the soft, firm area of Conan. However, for the blue-haired woman, she was blushing profusely and she lowered her eyes to see Ryu groping her buttocks. He was facing away from her, to which Conan thought he was trying to hide his perverted smirk. Rage coming over and not understanding the situation, she did what any normal woman would do to perverts. First, she warned him. "Yokays," snarled Conan, thinking Ryu would get the message. Naruto hummed at her, meaning he was listening, ignorant over the fact that his hand was touching a special part of the woman. You, continued Conan, and Ryu got up from his kneeling position, however his head was still touching her. He turned to the blue-haired beauty, and when he saw his hand on her butt, he immediately understood the situation. He instantly tried to apologize and he had a small blush. However, Conan would hear none of it and instead cocked her fist, and like pistol she impacted her fist against Ryu's face, more specifically his nose, eyes alight with rage. The normally calm Conan would never do something like that unless angered greatly. Ryu dropped down to ground, apparently unconscious. He was punched by woman plenty of times, but he had to say that was the strongest punch he ever felt. Conan meanwhile realized what she had done and sighed wearily. Maybe she overreacted. Walking back to Kirigakure was Conan and Naruto wrapped in paper sheets that covered his body except for his face. He currently had tissues up his nose. Whether he got a nosebleed from that moment or when Conan punched him no one was sure about. He let out a moan in pain and Conan averted eyes to his. "You seem alright," stated Conan blankly. Naruto didn't say anything except but to moan in agony. "You punch harder than that woman," commented Naruto, making Conan raise her eyes at him, wondering who he could be referring to. "I see, thank you for ridding the bandit camp. And unfortunately my contract with the Akatsuki has ended," spoke Mei sadly and wearily. She was going to miss the blonde. The sex she had with him was the best in ages. Besides, she loved to get a reaction out of him since, with that stoic persona around him, it would be hard to get a reaction, but it would be worth it at the same time. The Akatsuki members didn't mind and instead both seemed happy to get out of the land of water. "I hope to be seeing you very soon, Ryu-kun," spoke Mei sultrily, which caused a shiver to run down Naruto's spine. Ryu and Conan were finally leaving Kirigakure and the land of the water behind them. "That was a rather interesting experience," stated Conan. "A large amount of developments and troubles happened within that village," responded Naruto. "Though I wonder what Danzo is planning right now," thought Conan aloud. She was informed about Rya's capture from Naruto himself. "Most likely coming up with tactics to kill me since I represent a danger to Konoha," replied Naruto. "But it's not Danzo we should be worrying about." Ryu gave Conan a certain look that the female Akatsuki member understood. Obito Uchiha. When he and Naruto would face each other in 5 months, and between the two of them only, one would walk away alive. "Conan, we will head to one of my bases north of here, so to improve your body, and then I want you to tell me everything you know about Obito, and leave out nothing," commanded Naruto, to which Conan nodded. In a small room in Konohagakure were two of the Hokage's advisors. The old fossils known as Homura and Kaharu. They had been recently summoned by their former comrade and fellow advisor Danzo to discuss something that he believed would later be a threat in peace to Konoha. Kaharu and Homura were, of course, more militant when it came to the well-being of the village. They wanted nothing more than to protect it, and they believed that events, such as the Uchiha massacre and the Hyuga affair, were necessary. Originally, when Suna surrendered to Konoha after their failed invasion, Danzo immediately spoke out against it and would rather attack Suna for their treachery. Kaharu agreed with him at the time, believing it to be the most logical thing at the time. However, Homura did not, instead was content with an armistice but was still bitter over Sun's betrayal. And now news was spreading of Ryu Yokaza's exploits throughout the countries, that the entire shinobi world was in an uproar. The man's infiltration still leaves a sour taste in the mouths of various shinobi, and agents of the Leave had already told them what happened at the Kagero Temple and the Tonbaguri no Tsurugi. And surprisingly, Yoa had openly revealed that yokai snuck into their village and tried to assassinate their Tsuchikage. The advisors thought differently. They had met Onoki the Sandaime Tsuchikage various times, both on the battlefield and off. And being a student of Mu the Nidaime Tsuchikage, a man known for his opportunistic ways of attempting to gain affluence outside his own village, Onoki was just like his teacher except for being grumpier than him. Homura and Kaharu believed that Onoki fabricated the lie, so to make sure his village would be seen as victims, and so no evidence or false accusations were thrown about his village, as the main reason why yokais entered the village is still unknown. The only hidden villages that were, at least had no relation to yokais, were Sunagakure and Kirigakure. Mei kept the knowledge of her contracting the Akatsuki on a down low, so no one would find out. At that moment, Danzo hobbled through the door. Out of all the dinosaurs in the room, he was among the battiest and fanatical about the village. He had lost the opportunity to become Hokage, not once, not twice, but 3 times, which to him was an insult to his ability. He sat down on a couch opposite his 2 fellow advisors. "Homura, Kaharu, I wish to discuss with you the recent events that have been surrounding Ryu yokais," started Danzo. "And, what about the yokais no Ryu? Dragon of the Night Wind?" questioned Homura. "Yokais is a threat that must be eliminated at any and all cost. He is the second coming of the Yondaime Hokage. If such an individual is left wandering around without any allegiance to a shinobi village, could be disastrous to the Leaf and the other villages. The seedling must be pulled from its roots before it can be allowed to grow and flourish," explained Danzo, to which Kaharu and Homura agreed. "And what shall we do? We have no present location on yokais, and even if we do, he'll most likely slip through our fingers yet again," spoke Kaharu. Not to mention your failed mission to have yokais abandon the Akatsuki and join, Konoha failed miserably, we should never have trusted Iwa shinobi to begin with. Harangued Homura. I understand, but this time we will not use shinobi from a backwash village, said Danzo, making Homura and Kaharu look at each other with raised eyebrows. Togebusu. Yes, Danzo-sama, spoke a man with a monotone voice that was hiding in the corner. Your mission is to assassinate Ryu yokais, and any and all resources shall be given you if you request it. Yes, Danzo-sama, replied Toge. It would be my pleasure, Danzo-sama, said Toge, who walked into the light with a sickly smirk, marring his features. Ryu yokais will be dead before the next flower blooms of his last day. Was a tall, elegant man with feminine features, giving him a slightly androgynous appearance. His hair is shoulder length and rose pink with ruffles through it, and had blue eyes. He wore the standard Konoha flak jacket with a pink sash around his waist, and a short-sleeved green shirt. He wore black gloves with stains of pink and a lapel over both of his legs, which were dull pink in color, and he had a tattoo of flowers up the entire length of his right arm. He wore basic ninja sandals and had the Konoha headband on his forehead. So you're sending Toge? Queried Kaharu. Will he be enough for yokais, as even Kakashi, the strongest jonin, was outmatched by yokais? Do not fear, Toge has more than enough qualifications to deal with yokais. Besides, he has something special that not many other shinobi posses, assured Danzo, where he nodded at the pink-haired man, who promptly left. Grunting and moaning sounds were reverberating through underground halls, their pitch mirroring the pain the person was in, almost like the wails of a long-dead person. The source of this moaning was Obito Uchiha, who was experimenting on himself to make him stronger, so when he would be ready to fight Naruto at Arge Valley, south of the Fire Temple in the Land of Fire. Obito was sweating profusely as he was having a cage bunshin, doing the experimenting for him. His breath hitched and his body shook violently as he sat upon a small operating table. He was hoping for the pain to end. The operation was almost done. Just a little more. He bit his lip as the pain came back at him full force. This wasn't easy for him, but his opponent was powerful, and he too needed to be powerful. Receiving the rush of memories from his shadow clone, Obito grunted in relief, overjoyed that he could no longer feel pain. I will show the world the true power of the Sharingan, spoke Obito as he got off the operating table. And embedded into his back were 12 Sharingan, organized into 4 rows, with each eye looking in different directions, almost as if they had life in them, or some sign of humanity hoping to release themselves from such torment. They say the eyes are the mirror to the soul, and those eyes reflected horror and agony all too well.